Hello, everyone. I'm Travis Brock, your guest host for tonight's Higher Ed Live. I'm Director of Business Development and Social Media at Educational Marketing Group. I handle EMG's social media and email outreach. Many of you recognize me as Carrot TB on EMG's social media sites. I also direct EMG's blog and e-newsletter, the EMG Brand Bounce, as well as the annual International Brandmaster Competition. I'd like to thank I'd like to thank Higher Ed Live for this opportunity tonight, and please be sure to follow our conversation on Twitter at Higher Ed Live, and you can follow me at tbrock111 on Twitter. Tonight, I will be interviewing the newest member of an elite club of education branding professionals. His name is Jason Cook. He is the 2012 winner of the International Brandmaster Award. But before I go into any more, a word about our Higher Ed Live sponsors for tonight's show. Omni Update is the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS, OU Campus, is secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. Going to U of I WebCon, stop by Omni Update booth and meet at JRex or at J_Rex and check out Rick Lindquist's Beast of a Session. We're tweeting the link to the session now because I kind of butchered that a little bit. Also, Higher Live is sponsored by Integral, the creators of the Schools app, a private Facebook community to boost enrollment and retention. Check out their blog Integral Insights for posts on admissions marketing, student engagement, and social media in higher education. We're tweeting the link to that blog now as well. So getting back to tonight's topic, each year since 2009, EMG goes through a 5-month process searching for the best education branding professional in the world. From October to December, peers and colleagues nominate possible candidates for the award and provide a little background about the nominee. Over the years, nominations have come from Scotland, Belgium, Netherlands, Australia, England, Canada, and the United States. This year, we received 15 nominations from, and we'll be sending out a link to that on Twitter back channel as well. And from December to January, nominees are asked to respond to numerous questions about their brand's strategy, tactics, and the results, as well as provide letters of support from their fellow colleagues, and have come from university presidents, coworkers, and also a couple from members of Congress. Around the end of January, the nominees' supporting information is reviewed and scored by a blue ribbon panel of 6 highly experienced branding professionals. Typically, judges have come from the United States, Norway, England, Canada, Australia, and Ireland. I know I have thanked them many times since they've completed the judging, but I want to extend a big thank you to the judges who volunteered their time and expertise this year. They include Ray Goldsmith, the Vice President for Advancement Resources at CASE, Kevin Grout, the Manager of Student Marketing and Communications at University of Victoria, Emma Leach, who is 2011's International Brandmaster. She is the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Recruitment at the University of Nottingham, Tim Murphy, President of Fans Live, and Ailish O'Brien, Director of Communication and Marketing at the University College Dublin in Ireland. And after the judges have scored the nominees' material, the 3 top scoring nominees are named as finalists. Big congratulations go out to this year's finalists that included 2 other extraordinary branding professionals, Justin G. Roy, Vice President for Communications and Marketing at William Peace University, and Dr. David Willow, Director of External Relations at the International School of Brussels. In February, the finalists' information is posted on EMG's website and voted on by their peers, general public, and their brand's stakeholders. This year, we received over 3,700 votes for the 3 finalists. It is a detailed process that determines the next prestigious international brandmaster. It is an impressive achievement to be named EMG's International Brandmaster. They are nominated by their colleagues, professionally reviewed by their peers, and supported by their stakeholders. And for the rest of the hour, the newest brand master will be answering some of the questions for us. We will be chatting and discussing education branding with a master. I have some questions for him, and feel free to chime in as well on the Higher Ed Live hashtag in the back channel. So with us today is Jason Cook. Since 2008, he has served as Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Texas A&M University, recognized as one of the top public institutions in the United States with more than 50,000 students and research expenditures of more than $700 million. In this role, Mr. Cook directs institution-wide branding and marketing, media relations, collegiate licensing, internal communications, and external affairs, while reporting to the president and leading Texas A&M's Division of Marketing and Communications. Jason also played a key role in Texas A&M's transition to the Southeastern Conference in 2012, which elevated the university's brand both academically and athletically across the nation, and resulted in him being named the International Brandmaster of the Year by Educational Marketing Group. Texas A&M is widely recognized as a leader in both social media and brand recognition, or brand integration. This would go a whole lot easier if I could read very well. Additionally, Jason led the pre- and post-campaign strategy behind quarterback Johnny Manziel becoming the first ever freshman to win the prestigious Heisman Trophy. And from 2010 to 11, Jason served in a dual capacity as Chief Communications Officer for the Texas A&M University System. And Jason also served as the Director of Communications and Marketing for the Texas A&M AgriLife, the Director of Publications and Marketing for the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Services, Assistant Vice President of Media and Communications for Health South Corporation, and in Athletic Media Relations at Mississippi State University. And news has also spread, Jason, that you're changing things up a bit on Monday. So if you could, can you tell us a little bit more about your new adventure?
Well, thanks very much, Travis, for the opportunity to join you tonight on Higher Ed Live. It's a great honor to be with you tonight. And yes, a little bit of shifting going on here at Texas A&M, but I've had an opportunity to switch over from overseeing the university marketing to concentrating specifically in the athletics world. I'll be starting a new position as Senior Associate Athletic Director for External Affairs actually on Monday. And for us, it's a little bit of a shift, but I think it's an extension of our brand strategy that we've had here at Texas A&M. We have a one brand approach in all that we do, and that's we're going to talk a little bit tonight about that integration of athletics and academic branding, but it's also a realization that a lot of people, in fact millions of people around the country, experience our universities through athletics. And we want to make sure that that our front porch of the university is really accurately portraying this great academic institution that's Texas A&M. So I'm going to be able to focus 100% of my time 24/7 in terms of working on the athletic enterprise. But there's a lot of things that we're doing to where we introduce academics through the athletics window.
It sounds like a great opportunity, and congratulations on that one. Well,
thanks. It's it is a great opportunity, but I don't know. It's even though I'm still going to be here at Texas A&M, you still have all those fears and jitters about starting a new job. So in some ways, it's going to be all new again.
Oh, I'm sure you got nothing to worry about.
Thanks.
So let's get to the meat and potatoes of tonight's Higher Ed Live, and that's some of the questions. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, be sure to put them on Twitter with the Higher Ed Live hashtag, and we'll be sure to get to a couple of those throughout the night. So first question to start things off, everybody has a different meaning behind the word branding, but what does branding a higher ed organization mean to you?
Well, from and at the outset, we have to look at higher education, these entities that have been around 130, 150, 200 years in our country. You have to look at them as brands. We all have a value set. We all have a distinct mission, a distinct purpose that we have. But there is a lot of resistance in our business to think of our institutions as brands. But I think that right now there's a huge movement going on around the country where, you know what, these are brands. We do have purposes. We do have audiences. And when you say a institution like Texas A&M or like Harvard or Yale, there's a lot of different sentiments and connotations that come up as part of that. So I think that we're at this huge transition point in higher education marketing to where we are seeing these institutions as brands. And you have to look from a competitive marketplace, the world that we're living in. We all know that attention spans for people are becoming shorter and shorter. And here at Texas A&M, I'm competing for people's attention just like big brands are, whether it's Apple or whether it's companies like Pepsi. These big brands, well, we're competing for the same time, attention, and money as those other institutions. So we do need to take a corporate approach and adopt a lot of the models that we're seeing from our friends in the for-profit sector.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much competition going on nowadays. It's getting a little overwhelming, and I'm sure the students feel it as well as they're getting all the view books and all the pieces of mail in their and all the emails in their inbox. So having a brand nowadays is one of the big things that will help clarify what those students think of you. And
Well, and you know what, Travis, the thing is, I think that puts a greater responsibility on us as higher education marketers to make sure that our messages are targeted, that they're relevant, and we're providing information that people use. Because if not, we're just adding to the clutter, and we could be some of the biggest offenders out there.
oh, absolutely. You can see that all the time. Sometimes at college fairs and where there's no focused message, or there's nothing coming from, or I mean, they're trying to be everything to all people. So it's just kind of a big mush of messaging going out there to a lot of the people, a lot of the prospective students that may be getting some of these messages, and not just the prospective students, but the community itself, the surrounding community, the alumni who are you're trying to gain their support, and so on. So, uh, what process was used to create the successful brand at Texas A&M University?
Well, back in the mid 2000s, I think there was a big realization that the Texas A&M didn't have a brand, and we were fighting a lot of perceptions, and some that we still fight today, as people seeing Texas A&M as we were in the 1970s, and prior to that as a regional all-male military institution. That was our heritage, but in fact, as you mentioned earlier in the introduction, we're one of the top research universities in the country, a member of the Association of American Universities, so very prestigious organizations. So we were looking at, hey, we need to say, what is our brand? And really look internally of who we are and what we do. That led to a very extensive process internally, a lot of stakeholders, current students, our alumni, our faculty, staff, students here on our campus, our leadership went through a very extensive process where we, determined what our values were. And we came up with 6 core values that we thought represented the institution, and a value set that we could make decisions by on a day-to-day basis. And then we also developed a distinct purpose statement. A lot of universities have mission statements, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners out today, they're probably just like Texas A&M. They're about a mile long, and they're hard to remember. Let's just put everything in there. But we took a little bit different approach, and we have a purpose statement, and that is clearly to develop leaders of character dedicated to serving the greater good. and leaders of character dedicated to serving the greater good. And those 6 core values and that purpose statement really define our brand. I think it differentiates our brand. And then also that provides a platform for us to market moving out. And it's a huge brand differentiation, particularly when you look at one of these core values that we have is selfless service. And that really speaks to who we are as a land grant institution, but also who we are as Texas A&M.
Absolutely, and I think you hit kind of a nail on the head there when you said that you can't be all, like I mentioned before, you can't be everything to everybody. You have to narrow it down like you have to the 6 core features that you have put together, and you didn't do it by just slapping it on, taking it and saying here's what you are. You went and you dug throughout the campus. You went. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, and you know what it is? It's not just, we tend to skip to the end where we have logos and ads and things of that nature and trying to look at it very superficially, but you have to remember your brand is that core of who you are. And that was very important to us. And we always have what we call in our market communications team, the beakers and backpack test. So if you look at ads, if you look at institutional spots, we always do the beakers and backpack test and say, you know what, is that image, could that be used at any university USA? And if you haven't looked at it already, go to YouTube and look for Monsters U. And it is an institutional spot, and we don't want to be that spot where we're any university in the country, and that goes back to our core values and our purpose statement.
Yeah, yeah, that's being heralded as one of the examples of what not to do, because it's kind of the generic placeholder for every university out there. You want to stay away from what that Monsters U page looks like and what the video looks like. Absolutely.
Yes.
And one of the things that Texas A&M did with their brand that is not usually seen in higher education is taking the university's athletic and academic brand and kind of mixing them a little bit closer together than many would, and actually placing them together, I should say. That's a tough decision. So I'm wondering whose decision was it to do this?
Well, it's a high risk, high reward type of environment because we've seen instances where athletic scandals, where whether it's Penn State or lately Rutgers, you have some issues in athletics, and there's a fear that that will spill over and tarnish the reputation of these institutions. But you have to realize that at Texas A&M, I have a 136-year-old brand. And these brands have been around for a long time, and there's not one event or a sequence of events that's going to do irreparable harm to these institutions. But again, high risk, high reward, and the rewards for us certainly outweighed the risk. And it was a realization that when Texas A&M plays football on a Saturday afternoon in the fall, that football game is going to be seen by an average of 4.5 million people. Where else can I get 4.5 million people to watch a 3.5-hour commercial about our institution? A commercial where we could not only talk about football, but showcase our campus, showcase our tradition, showcase our spirit, and through that see our value set and that we are a little bit different. And there's a lot of institutions that do a lot of things to leverage athletics, but we were very intentional about that. And our university president, Dr. R. Bowen Lofton, who's a Texas A&M graduate, but has been at many institutions around the country, came in and said, you know what, we need to look at how can we leverage this exposure that we receive from athletics to introduce people to everything that Texas A&M has to offer. I always use the analogy that, you've probably heard the cliche that athletics is the front porch of a university. But, I think that our challenge as higher education marketers is not to leave people on the front porch of the university. I need to get them to walk through the front door And once they see the front, go through the front door, then they see our academics, then they see our research, then they see our faculty, our students, and really get to see the richness that our campus provides. So it's a very intentional effort, but something that we consider very deliberately.
Okay. Yeah, that the you mentioned that there's, what was it, 4.6 million?
Yes, that's an average of TV viewerships who for us will experience a game on Saturday afternoons, and even for big games, when we played Alabama, for example, there was nearly 10 million people watching that game. So you can think that an athletic and academic brands are separate, and I think that a lot of our internal audiences in terms of the faculty and some of our staff on our campuses would like to think that they are separate. But in reality, from a general populace and our prospective students, for example, our communities, our legislators who provide our funding, they only see us as one brand. And I think that you have to realize, again, going back to that corporate branding model, eliminating the clutter, to present a united image and a united front. And that's been vitally important for us and vitally successful as well.
Well, obviously, it's been very successful for you. Um, the, um, the difficulty with that is usually in branding, as we've seen in our work, has been to bring a lot of the people together. And I'm sure with
Yeah.
the athletics piece of it, bringing the athletics portion of it has its own challenges. So, who exactly did you have to bring together inside the Texas A&M athletic side and the academic side to make um, this huge athletic and academic brand come together?
Well, I always tell people, they ask, what is it like to work in higher education, and particularly higher education marketing? And I always say it's kind of like working at the United Nations, where you have all these entities going out together, and you're trying to get this large, complex, decentralized organization to move together in one direction. It's incredibly difficult. But I think for us, the strategy was, the realization that our university did not have a strong brand at the university level, and also the understanding that a university seal is not a brand. Every university around the country has a seal, and that seal is not a brand differentiation point. Yeah, you may have different colors, you may have a different symbol in the center, but that is not a differentiating mark. And so what we did to help get athletics on board is we went out and we adopted their mark. The same mark that you see, that TAM mark on the side of the football helmets, that's our mark that we use to delineate the university. It's the same. And so they automatically had an instant buy-in to the process. But this was a multi-year effort moving along, because there was, as you could expect, a lot of resistance. But I think that people started to see the brand and how we were rolling out. They were looking at the investments that we were making. And honestly, we did some tweaks along the way to where we revised our brand architecture to give our colleges and our centers and institutes a little bit more visibility in our brand architecture, but we still have the same logo mark, the same graphic identity there to represent the entire university. But we have a very inclusive process. We have a brand council on our campus, which includes the lead marketing and communications people from all 10 of our colleges, from all of our units across campus. And we get together once a month, and we also have a design council, we have a web council, various different groups that we meet with to make sure that everyone understands what's the brand strategy and where we're trying to go. So kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but hope the listeners and the viewers get an idea of, one, is a very inclusive process, and then two, this didn't happen overnight. And in fact, I would say that it's been 6-7 years to where we finally get it to where we think that the brand is optimized where we want it to go.
Absolutely. Not just like I said, it's not something that you can just slap on a university and say,
Yeah.
here's our brand. This is it's a long process for it to gain some traction, and to get so many people on board is just such a long process. You got to get the approval, or not the approval, but the at least um, the consensus built around the campus. You may have some objectors, obviously, but you at least have to have the a core group of people that are surrounding this and championing it and moving it forward. And I'm sure it sounds definitely like that's exactly what you did. Um,
Well, you know, it's a realization that you're still going to have the daily fights over the letterhead and business cards. That's just going to happen there because that's what's personal to faculty members. You know, that's their world. And I'm not to say that we're 100% perfect. There's still outliers out there that we have to look at every day. But you know what? If you don't properly police and protect your brand internally within your organization, how can you expect to police and protect it from an external standpoint? So we talk a lot about that, why it's important, and ultimately to have leadership who understands branding principles. My president is a physics professor. But even though he's a physics professor, he understands the importance of branding. And all of our decision-making process is based what's best for the Texas A&M brand. Is it going to help move us forward, or is it going to help us, or is it going to make an impact negatively on us?
yeah, you can find the brand champions in the most unlikely places sometimes. And like you said, the physicist, physicist, or did you say physics?
He's a physicist, but he started his career in physics.
Okay. Um, but you can also find them outside of the university as well. I'm sure you have quite a few groups and or individuals that have been strong supporters of the integration between athletics and academics, and you've had them champion the brand as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about who on the outside of the university has been a champion?
Well, I tell you, Travis, I think as communicators, we can sometimes be some of the worst communicators because a lot of times we're focused on our big brand strategies here, and we don't do a good job articulating internally what we're trying to do. And I really took that to heart with a lot of our alumni. We call them former students as Texas A&M because they're always going to be a student, having been here. And we were in a situation as we were building our brand foundation, 5 years ago when I walked in that a lot of people thought that we were the worst marketing organization in the country. And it kept going on. And even though we were doing a lot of work to build the brand and establish the brand architecture and really knock down a lot of walls, our own alumni were not couldn't see it. And so what we did is very intentional, and part of it was out of defense of our team because I think I have a great team who works along with me. We started talking visibly about what we're doing, where we're concentrating on. Here's our objectives. Here's our audiences that we're trying to reach, and the realization that I had all these brand ambassadors. You know, we have 370,000 living alumni, and if I could get them to understand our brand and what we were trying to do, they are going to go and they can take our message into their communities and start changing the conversation and changing a lot of the perceptions that people had about Texas A&M. And I tell you, it has been groundbreaking, and we've been very aggressive. We even go on social media sites, on the message boards. I go on and I will post as myself. I go on a monthly radio show here locally where all we talk about is branding, not only athletically but institutionally. We talk about our content marketing strategy on a radio show, and I think what it's done is given people a greater of appreciation of what we're doing to elevate the Texas A&M brand, and really it's helped further our profession in higher education, marketing, and communications.
So with these, you brought up a great term in brand ambassadors, especially when you were talking about alumni. Do you at Texas A&M do a lot of formal training of brand ambassadors? I know there's several schools out there, like Virginia Tech, who do brand ambassador training on a formal level. They have classes that they provide their faculty, staff, students. I don't believe they include their alumni just yet, but do you do that at the current moment?
We do. It's I would call it a brand type of program. But one thing that we do here at Texas A&M for our incoming students, we have a program called Fish Camp. And again, fish means freshman in military terms, and it kind of rely a little bit on our history. But we actually have a camp, a week-long camp for students before they step on foot on our campus. And, you have to consider we'll have 8,100, 8,200 freshmen coming in this fall, and about 85% of them go through Fish Camp. And that's an opportunity where they learn the core of the brand, they learn about our traditions, they learn about our spirit, they get to interact with our student leaders, our university administration, and that's kind of their first foray into what our brand is. And we've actually grown that program, and it's been around for over 20 years now. We've grown it to where we do it for our transfer and graduate students, and we even do a modified version of a fish camp for our new faculty members coming in too. So although it's not a formal, I wouldn't say it's a quote brand training program, it is a probably a unique orientation program to where we focus solely on what's different about Texas A&M and really introduce people to our traditions and spirit, which make up key tenets of our brand.
And that's even the best part is you're training them about the brand, and they probably don't even recognize it that they're being trained as part of being part of the brand.
You're
Um,
exactly right.
so I also have a question from at Moonball. I don't know if this is a direct question, but can one brand really encompass all the initiative, innovation, and intrigue situated across a plethora of perspectives?
Well, can one brand? We better as part of that. And the challenge is that if you look at a higher institution of higher education, I would say most are decentralized, and it's you become a very cluttered marketplace. There's all these messages going out there at the same time. And one thing that we've done is employed a content marketing strategy to really try to focus all these activities and these different components going on across our institution. And so each month we are spotlighting themes on the Texas A&M campus to where we have an overarching messaging strategy for each month. And we're providing opportunities for all these different entities on our campus to plug into our brand strategy, these themes that we're pushing throughout the month. And these themes really speak to a lot of that selfless service components of our brand, speak to our leadership, speak to the excellence of our strategy, right down to our core values of who we are. And I think the one thing that we've done is we've been able to demonstrate how we're putting our institutional muscle behind our content marketing strategy. I think that our people, our colleges on campus are starting to realize that, hey, you know what? I only have 1,000 Facebook followers on my college account, whereas Texas A&M as an institution has almost 400,000 followers. Or Texas A&M as an institution, our Twitter account is the third largest in the country with over 70,000 followers on Twitter. So I think that our people on our campus are starting to see, you know what, there's a lot of benefit to work with the institutional brand because the audiences are there, the strategies there, but then also the resourcing is there. My marketing budget is a lot bigger than those of our individual colleges and even collectively. So there's a lot of benefit for them to buy into our institutional branding strategy because they'll be able to leverage the audiences and then also the financial resources too.
That's a great response. I want to clarify that question actually came from at what underscore hubris and not from at Moonball. So apologies for that clarification. Um, the moving on a little bit, the there's a lot of obstacles that can come from putting an academic and athletic brand together, integrating it into a single brand. What did you guys run across as some of the obstacles? Kind of going to at what Hubris mentioned is what obstacles did you have from bringing so many perspectives together?
Well, from a brand standpoint, I think that a lot of times we are our own worst enemies, and just at a very superficial level, we have people on our campus sending out brochures that were blue and green, and our institutional color is maroon. And your color is a key part of your brand. We call it Aggie Maroon. And I think the biggest challenge is really internally, when there's such a stigma even today, when people say we're marketing a university, or we call a university a brand. And so I think that there's these historical negative perceptions that exist with those words, and we're continually educating people on our campus of what that means. So I think that that's the first big challenge. The second thing is trying to realize, get people to understand that, as I mentioned earlier, that everyone has a seal, and you don't just a seal is not the declaration or the symbol of academic quality or integrity. That's inherent in our brand. We're an institution of higher education. You look at those impacts that we have, and so many people tend to attach a brand with a logo there. It's a key component. It's the visual representation, but that was a really big hurdle that we had to go from. Now, I'm not saying that we don't use our seal. We still use it in the president's office for diplomas and things of that nature. But when we are presenting an outward face to our institution, we're going to divert to our primary mark to get some consistency there. And I think the third challenge is getting people to understand that we do have a distinct purpose statement. Again, going back to the beakers and backpack test, can you replace the name Texas A&M with any other institution across the country? And a lot of times there's a lot of negative chatter about that, but you have to stick to who you are. You have to stick to your values. You have to stick to your purpose, and those are going to remain constant, regardless whether we're talking about athletics or we're talking about engineering or we're talking about student affairs. That value set, that purpose, is going to be the constant.
Absolutely. The logo you mentioned is like the topper on the cake, the cherry in the sundae. It's not the whole thing, but it's a good part of it that people recognize, that people understand what it's the visual representation of it. And a lot of the times they don't understand that so much of what the brand is what you put into it, what you make it, or what you say is behind that logo, the meaning behind the logo, behind the seal, and putting that visual representation out there with just as the logo itself, it still has that feeling that without all that background, that the brand is an empty shell.
Yeah.
And then so going back to those obstacles, that having that empty shell is probably one of the biggest ones that we've seen, that there's no meaning behind it. There's nothing to put behind that logo. Um, how did you enforce the brand when you said you had a lot of people? How do you enforce the brand when you have folks come to you and say, I want my own logo, I want to use the brand? Because I know there's always the department that says, oh, I have this anniversary coming up, can we have our own logo for that? Or we have this coming up, we need a new logo to fit on this paper. So
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of it is education, like you're talking about, because people tend to just jump to the logo and don't go through the entire process in terms of brand identification or even brand development in some cases. And for us, just from a graphic identity standpoint, Travis, we kind of went to where it hurts a little bit first. So the key for us was standardizing our letterhead and business card system and actually partnering with our purchasing department. And we had to make sure that the only letterhead, envelope, stationery, business cards that were produced on our campus had to go through procurement services. And they were kind of the front lines at first for us to do that. So that was a key entry point for us. That was probably a little bit of the negative reaction at first, but it was clearly vital in terms of establishing the the graphic identity system that we had. The second thing was a little bit more positive. I mentioned earlier our brand council approach, and that's where we take the lead communications and marketing professionals from all 10 of our colleges and in our other major units around the country, around the campus, and we meet with them regularly. We talk about brand issues that they're having, the challenges that they're having, but they are really our frontline brand ambassadors internally and brand managers at the college level. And so we've been able to give them the guidance. They understand the strategy, and then our group obviously backs them up since they're on the front lines. Third thing that we did is made sure that we had a very comprehensive brand guide website, and not just a website to where we're say, hey, go to the site and download our logos. It's a site that explains the brand, you know, what a brand is and what our brand is. It's a site that explains our color palette and what that means. It's a site that also gives a lot of examples about good branding that exists on our campus. And we try to showcase opportunities either through our website or through our brain council meetings every week, some positive reinforcement as part of that. And then finally, we listen. And we had a couple of our colleges came to us about 2 years ago, and they said that, look, the brand architecture that we have right now is too restrictive. Our college is not getting the visibility that it deserves. And on our campus, and I think it's this way on many other campuses around the country, the colleges are the resource engines of our institution. That's how semester credit hours are generated. That's where philanthropy happens a lot of times, is at the college level. So we knew that we had to loosen up the brand architecture a little bit to give them some more visibility. But then I had some non-negotiables as part of that too. So we listened. We established a task force where we worked together, and we came up with a brand architecture that's not based on organizational structure, but it's based on how our audiences relate to the brand. So it's a process, but I think that over several years we've gotten to where we want to go.
And I'm sure you have to keep reinforcing that as people come on board and people leave and change positions and go through the daily lives of things that, and like you mentioned, the positive reinforcement can do so much good in showing how the brand is executed across campus.
Well,
The
and I think too, Travis, just to be able to be recognized by EMG with the International Brand Master Award, you know, what a great validation internally that says, you know what, okay, maybe these guys know what they're talking about. Maybe they know what they're doing, and that really has changed, has been a turning point for some of those holdouts, those tough nuts to crack on our campus.
Well, that's good to hear because you guys are definitely doing a wonderful job over there.
Thanks.
And and like I said, it's not just me saying that; it's the judges as well who said that.
Uh,
Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold, so sorry to be coughing in everybody's ear. The There are always we kind of mentioned a lot about the internal folks, and there's always the external folks that have a lot of issues and aren't quite as educated. They don't have the regular reinforcement that you mentioned. So when it comes to the budget and the political issues that many are coming to with their legislative sessions that are going on now, and when they're trying to deal with state budgets and bond issues and what have you, there's been a lot of confusion on many campuses when it comes to where money is set aside for academics and where money is set aside for athletics. So is Texas A&M dealing with those kind of issues on the external side of things?
That's a very good question, and it's a challenge for everyone right now. But I think that again, step back and you've got to get outside the bubble that we live in higher education, and think about how people relate to the brand. We have prospective students who come to and experience Texas A&M through football games and through athletic events and through our student groups that happen on our campus. Our legislators, they come to athletic events. They come to experience the many work of our students on our campus. So I don't think that the audiences that we deal with, our target audiences, whether they're legislators, whether they're prospective students, their community members, even our alumni, I don't think that they see these brands as separate or distinct entities there. And so they're looking at it as one brand, and that's how we approach it too. Higher education funding is extremely complex. We always talk about different colors of money, whether it's tuition money or research funds coming in or funds being generated by athletics. And I think the key point is transparency. And regardless of what logo you're using, people are still going to have those connotations. But it's a great opportunity to educate people. It's a great opportunity to be very transparent. We're very fortunate here at Texas A&M is that we don't subsidize athletics in any manner at all from the institutional level. So that's a little bit easier conversation for us to have. But I think that we try to turn it and make it a little bit bigger picture. We talk about the benefits in terms of the exposure that we get by highlighting or elevating one part of our campus. And there's a lot of great schools around the country who do that as well. You look at an Ohio State, for example. You look at a Michigan. There's these great schools. And I think for so often we try to fight between the different components within the bubble on our campuses instead of just realizing, you know what, it is what it is. Let's leverage our strength and let's see if we can embrace what athletics brings to the table and be very intentional about using this great visibility to introduce people to our academic enterprise.
So you're basically pushing past all of the negative stuff with your brand, and you're making sure that they're pretty much with the internal portion, you're going to the external portion and educating them as well.
Yeah, I think that that's a key component, Travis. And again, I mean, you look at the lens of how people see our institutions, and it doesn't do your brand disservice to say, well, that's just athletics, that's separate from the university. These are student athletes who attend class. It just so happens that they have extra personal gifts and skills, but really, why are they any different than a cello player? Or why are they any different of a member of our Corps of Cadets? It's just that they have different skill set that they bring to the table, and let's see how we can leverage the visibility that they bring.
Excellent point. I love that the point you just made about the cello player just having a different skill set. So why separate the basketball player from and the swimmers from the chemists and the man, I'm really having a brain fart here, but all those different academic groups that are over there, that are out there.
Yes.
I think you get the point. But that's a very great point. I love that. The biggest thing that many people have picked up on at Texas A&M is their use of social media. Uh, how have you and your team leveraged that uh, at Texas A&M, and how have you used it to its fullest?
Good question. And our social media efforts are are something that we're very proud of. My executive director of marketing and social media is Diane McDonald, and she is just fabulous and on the cutting edge. And she's a great follow on Twitter, by the way, at Diane C. McDonald. And she does a lot of speaking engagements around the country about social media. And going back to when I first got the job or promotion to vice president here at Texas A&M, was it early in 2008, and that was really in the early stages of social media in higher education. And we made a commitment, talking with our university president at the time, that we were going to jump in with both feet in terms of social media. Uh, you know, 2008 doesn't seem like that long ago, but there was a lot of universities around the country that were very scared of social media at that time, and they had their heads in the sand there. And we said, you know what, we're going to jump in, and we're going to be very intentional with our social media strategy, and it's based on and this is a lot of people talk about the word engagement today in social media. That's what it needs to be about, and that's the buzzword. But even back in 2008, Diane helped develop our strategy, was engaging a community of spirit here at Texas A&M through social media. And that's how we do things, engaging the community of spirit that exists here through social media. So we dove in with both feet. We're very fortunate. Our campus is somewhat conservative, so that means that we could be pretty aggressive, very experiential in how we embrace social media here, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. And yes, we're a large university. We have about 53,000 students, so obviously our social media numbers, our followers, our fans are going to be very large. But one thing that we're proud of is those engagement measures, and looking at how people are engaging with our content, how we're engaging with them from a two-way communication standpoint. And our social media really is at the center of everything that we do from a marketing communication standpoint. Even though we're urging people to become more and more integrated in our approaches, there's still these stovepipes that exist a lot of times between marketing and communications. So I always encourage my team that we need to be working in the gray space, in that gray space that exists between marketing and communications. And you know what's in the gray space? And that's social media. And so we've really been able to move the needle for our brand in the social media space.
And the biggest point I think you brought up there that a lot of people don't usually associate with social media, and it's starting to gain a little traction in the social media world in higher education, is that bringing like you mentioned, the community of spirit, almost taking your brand and placing it and using it and bringing it to the social media world. It's not just something that lives in the bricks and mortar campus. It's something that can live online as well.
And you know what, Travis, a key thing I talked early on in the session about, a lot of these perceptions that we were fighting of Texas A&M being a regional military institution, or an ag school being a large land grant university. We looked at being aggressive in social media as trying to dispel some of these myths that people had about our brand. And so our social media efforts are a part of positioning Texas A&M as a cool place to be, as being a technological leader, as being a top university, and it's really paid off for us. And we're very fortunate that when people talk about social media in higher education, Texas A&M is up there with the great work that's being done at Stanford and Harvard and Duke and some other schools as well.
Absolutely, and you were just recognized again as being in the top 10 universities in the country for using social media. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we've been very fortunate. Again, Diane does a wonderful job. Krista Smith is our content coordinator there, and really have a good team. And you know what the thing is that a lot of people tend to be very restrictive in social media and develop, policies and guidelines for social media. We really looked at, hey, we're on an academic institution, and we're guided by academic freedom. And so we took a different approach. We're very facilitative. And our social media strategy is to share best practices and to tell people how to do it right, or to demonstrate how to do it right, instead of telling people what not to do.
Talking to you for the last 55 minutes has been great, and I'm going to leave off with one question I like to ask all the other folks. If you could change one thing in higher ed branding and marketing, what would it be?
Wow,
It's a fun question.
it is a very big, weighty question. For me, I think that if there's some way that we could figure out how to eliminate all these fiefdoms that exist on our campus. And one of the great things about higher education institutions is the decentralization and the entrepreneurial spirit that exists within our faculty and our academic units. But that's also, from a brand perspective, a detriment for us, because we're constantly trying to bring people back to the center. So if there's one way that we could get rid of the fiefdoms and get people all on the same team, if I could wave a magic wand, that's really what it would be. But I think it's a great opportunity, and I think that there's a lot of institutions around the country that are doing a great job in approaching higher education from a brand standpoint. Texas A&M, I think we do a great job, but we don't have the corner of the market. There's a lot of great schools doing it. But I think that we need to continue pushing as a profession, as higher education marketers, to keep pushing this approach. We call it our one brand approach here at Texas A&M. And I think that there's a lot of great case studies, and we need to keep talking about, what, we really are one team, and the sum of the parts is much greater than all the parts scattered around our campus.
But Jason, you'd be taking all the fun out of higher education branding if it were that easy.
I tell you what, if we would have figured that out, I would have not have as many gray hairs as I do right now.
Well, on that note, excuse me. On that note, thanks for your insights. I've had a wonderful time chatting with you over the last hour. I want to thank you as the brand master for coming on Higher Ed Live and talking with us today and being in the hot seat.
Well, Travis, thank you for the opportunity, the venue to talk about it, and thanks to EMG for sponsoring the award. It's a great opportunity to showcase our profession, talk about what we do, and for me, it's a tremendous honor to go through the process with the peers, the judges going through and evaluating our work, and then having an opportunity to engage our brand ambassadors as part of the process too. It was a very worthwhile process, and very fortunate. So thanks to you and EMG for all that you guys do to showcase and spotlight our profession.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that note. One quick housekeeping note. Next week on Higher Ed Live, host Ryan Catherwood has assembled an all-star panel, including Andrew Shandlin of Carnegie Mellon University, to discuss his recent article, The Risk in Measuring Alumni Engagement. And we're tweeting out, Higher Ed Live is going to be tweeting that out in just a second. So on that note, I'd like to close and say thank you once again. I appreciate this opportunity from Higher Ed Live and to talk with Jason online with everybody else. And thanks for joining us. You guys have a great night.